evening. Welcome to the January 9th, 2019 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. We have an order of business tonight of new business first. It's a request for a certificate of compliance by Ty and Bond regarding the City of Lowell wastewater utility. And the DEP number is 206764. The location is 55.1 and 61 First Street Boulevard in Lowell. The applicant submitted drawings dated December 2018 that shows the site conditions and compliance with the order of conditions that was issued originally. Someone here for that? Welcome. Can you sign our list, please?
I did.
Okay.
Mark Young, I'm the director for the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility and the Lowell Regional Water Utility. With this seeking the certificate of compliance, this project is completed, and we pass on the documentation to the Conservation Commission. There was one note that the Commission made to us subsequent to the submission for the certificate of compliance, and that was the removal of a silt fence, remnants of a silt fence. That has been done. Remnants of that silt fence have been removed. And that was the only really condition that was outstanding.
Okay, that's the only thing I have listed here is as far as to-dos that were still outstanding, and I'm glad that has been done. It looked very well vegetated. Is that something that's going to grow up, whatever you've planted there, or is someone going to maintain that, or how is that going to be treated now that it's grown in?
It'll be maintained by the city.
It'd be mowed?
Yes.
Like a couple times a year or more frequently?
As needed.
Okay. And as far as you have a fence completely around the portion that you
Yes.
are using. Is there any maintenance that we might be interested in knowing about as ongoing with that particular site, like blowing off water or opening hydrants or anything like that?
No, there's nothing, no concerns like that at that site.
Okay. All right, I thought it looked very well stabilized there, and it seemed to go pretty quickly. I don't know when the original order came out, but I wasn't expecting that to be done quite as fast as it was.
Well, there was some emergency because it had to do with the compliance with the consent decree that the city has from EPA and DEP in regards to CSO, combined soil overflow mitigation, as well as the completion of the flood pump station, so that people behind the levee can, be relieved for paying the insurance, for the flood insurance.
So does that finish up that side of the river as far as the stormwater issue is concerned?
Oh, no.
No.
We have a lot more to do.
Oh. Any questions from the board?
I saw the pictures. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, it did. They did a good job. That's what we try to do. We try to leave it better than when we came in.
Okay, so I guess at this point we can entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance on this particular project.
I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have a request for a certificate of compliance by Jayco Lowell Realty. The DEP number is 206-357, and the location is 130 Marshall Road. This is an old order that came out before the Veterans Administration Clinic was built, and it It concerns the access road to that clinic. The as-built plan is dated October 16th, 1991, and shows the as-built conditions. That is a requirement that we have before we issue a certificate of compliance, and we're not quite sure why the certificate was never issued, but are you representing Jacob? No. I keep wanting you to get up and say something. Yes, I'm next. Okay. Okay, so we did have a site inspection out there, and we got quite a lot of information from Patrick about the relocation of the road and the slopes and things like that, the boundary lines of the project. It looked perfectly stabilized to me, and I don't think it could have been built any other way, although this wasn't our order, it was a state order, I believe. But we are able to give the certificate of compliance if I'm correct. So I would, does anyone have any questions about this particular project before we go any further? Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to issue a certificate on this.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
And a second?
Second.
And any further discussion or, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. And those opposed, none. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Next on our agenda is a request for determination of applicability issued by Paul Stedman of Mass DOT, the Highway Department, District 4. And the location is the right-of-way along the Lowell Connector near Robinson Street and Lincoln Street. It's a request for a project involving cleaning up of an encampment and debris removal within bordering land subject to flooding, the 25-foot riverfront area to River Meadow Brook, and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. This is actually in between the highway and the river. If I recall, it's not an easy site to access. So do you have some information for
Yes.
us about this?
Hi, I'm Sandy Sprague. I'm the environmental engineer for District 4, Mass Highway. Yes, we have 2 homeless encampments between the Lowell Connector and the River Meadow Brook, as you said, by Robinson Street and Lincoln Street. The primary goal is to clean up the hazardous waste that's out there that they've left behind that's causing some public safety concerns. They are homeless people that have left their drug paraphernalia, their needles are there and stuff, so, and their human waste and everything else. I actually got to walk the site. It's pretty sad. So that's the main goal, is making sure that it's a safe area for everyone else that has to get in those areas. To do that, we hired one company, Triumphant will be out there, and their part of it is to clean up the trash left behind. They'll go through, pick up what they can with grabbers. They don't really pick it up with their hands. They're picking up with the grabbers and moving it off-site to a trash container, the solid waste dumpster that will be placed. For the Robinson Street one, it'll be placed off Thorndike Street. They're going to enter through Thorndike Street. There's an area that's open. They'll be there. I know that was one of the concerns, was where are we putting the solid waste containers. So that's where one of is. I've asked them to keep far away from the river as possible where they can put it, but make it easy access for them to get to it from the encampment. And the other one on Lincoln Street will actually be on Lincoln Street. There's a fence that runs along Lincoln Street that has been cut, and that's how they're accessing it to get into their encampment. So we're going to keep it open for right now, and that's where their container will be actually on the street, so it won't be anywhere off that one. So it's kind of it's new for us. We build highways and bridges. I'm not quite sure how to deal with the trash part of it, but they're going out, they'll get the trash as much as they can. The tree cutters will come in at that point, or they're only using chainsaws. They're not going in with big excavators or anything of that sort. For removing some of the trees, they need to do that in lots of bittersweet. I've never seen bittersweet quite so thick down there. Their vines were about 3 inches wide. So they're gonna cut probably at the ground and as high up as they can, standing. They're not using any bucket like lifts or any of that kind of sort. They're just trying to open up as much. The second goal is really to try and open up the area, so make it more visible for the cops and us as highway department, and in hopes that it will deter them from coming back. This is the second time we've actually had them at the Robinson Street area. We've cleaned it up once before and then they came right back. So we're trying to come up with a different way of maybe deterring them from coming if it's more visible. So another area I know that was concerned is the bank itself. They will be using a small excavator that has a thumb, a bucket and a thumb out there, is what I've been told. So any of the large debris, there's mattresses, the tents that have blown down, any of the larger debris, they'll be grabbing with that. There's no earth excavation. If it's something that's embedded in the ground, they're not digging it up. I know I didn't want to get I don't want to give the impression that this is going to be a full-blown cleanup. It's not. I can say there'll be some trash left behind. They're going to do their best that they can do to clean as much as they can, but there is no earth excavation out there. It is just, what they can grab and remove. That's what they're going to do. I did this based. So we are in resource areas. We have the bordering land subject to flooding. We meet the 3 standards. There's no compensatory storage since we're not putting any fill. There's no restriction to flow. If there should be a flooding event, we're not really having anything out there to prevent that. And there's no impact to protected wildlife. Also, the 25-foot riverfront, we meet those standards where there's no impact to another resource area, meaning we're good with the bordering land subject flooding. We meet those standards. There's no endangered species in this area, and there's no economic alternative for this project. It's a cleanup. I think that's, so we are starting with the Robinson Street development first, section first. That'll be next week. The cops have already gone in and told them, the occupants, to please vacate the area. We're hoping that they have. The goal is, as long as you guys are good with it, to go in and the cleanup will begin next week. We have to kind of do it a quick way once they've been told to vacate. We don't want to leave a site open, especially that one. That one is open. Anyone from the public can just walk into that area. There's all this housing right next to it and stuff, so we don't want to leave anything because they're going to leave their stuff behind. And they do have buckets of needles and stuff, so we're trying to get in as quick as possible and get that cleaned out. That's top priority. The other one off Thorndike, off Lincoln, probably will be happening later this winter, early spring. It's more of, let's see how this one goes, the teams work, the tree team and the cleanup team, and then move on to the next one. We just wanted to permit them together since they are the same type of work in the same area. I will obviously let you guys know when we're going to do that. For trees, some will have to come down only because I feel that with the bittersweet, they tend to create curtains of it and they're growing from tree to tree. So if we kind of target the trees that are so wrapped up in it, if we knock those down, you'll knock down most of the stuff and they'll have less chance to go and take out your canopy. Right now they're taking out the canopy. So if we take down certain ones that have it, they're going to leave intact majority of the canopy in your 25-foot river area. That's not the goal of to destroy, wipe out everything there. It's not that. They're just trying to make sure that we can have open access, and the bittersweet is something that's not allowing us to have that.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions here.
Yeah.
First of all, the excavator, would that be a small size, like a bobcat size?
So they'll be like, yeah, about a bobcat or a little bit bigger than the bobcat. It's the smallest excavator they can have. They only have a small area. There's a natural path that's there already, or a path created by everyone going back and forth. And there's not much room between our bottom of slope from the Lowell connector and your river itself, so we can't get in with big equipment. There's not feasible, so only small equipment can get in there.
I think we'd be interested in not having that excavator disturb any part of the riverbank.
Right. No, they're only picking up the large.
They're driving along it or digging at it.
No digging. They're just picking up what they can grab with the thumb. I don't know if you know what I'm sorry, Conver, you know, with the construction, it's literally looks like a hand that goes down and grabs it. So it has abilities. There's mattresses and shopping carts and that kind of stuff. They're not going to go down and try and pick up paper with it. That's not what they're going to be able to do. It's more of the
Okay.
larger
You
equipment.
can ask the operator, just, keep it straight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, when I read the description of this project, I kind of was under the impression that you were only trimming limbs, not taking down trees.
I did mention we would be taking down trees in it, and it's the ones that are completely inundated with your bittersweet that are going to be dead anyways, because they're just so, there's not much left to them to begin with. It's bittersweet, so those are the ones, and that is just to knock it, to keep the bittersweet off your trees that you do have out there.
I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing the number and the location of these particular trees, since, removing trees along riverbanks sometimes is something that causes erosion, and that's an artificial created channel as well, I believe, when they
Yeah,
rerouted
MassDOT
that
owns half
brook.
of it. We moved it.
It's probably moving a little quicker than it should be if it were in its natural course. Do you have any sense of where these trees are that you're
I
talking
don't.
about?
We didn't, while we were out there, we didn't have a chance to really, we had the 4 cops with us, the occupants were there. It wasn't a very conducive environment to be out there and spend
Because
quality time that way.
Without marking them, it's kind of a course of least resistance where somebody might just say, well, that one's kind of in my way, and there goes another one, so.
We can leave the trees for now, and they can just cut them, and we can revisit. And that might be how we have to go forward with this kind of work. We're not sure if
Normally,
it's
we
going to
would
work.
go out and we would discuss the trees with you,
Don't
which
think you
ones you
wanna be out
wanted to
there.
take down, and
Yeah, but we can do that if they don't want the trees down now, we can come back to it and revisit that part of it and just have them cut the underbrush and the bittersweet if that's going to be, if you feel strongly about that, we can.
okay, and the same thing with the underbrush, if it's within, a certain number of feet of the bank, I think you need to be careful not to just completely clear cut everything.
Okay.
I don't think that any, straight cutting of bittersweet is going to eradicate that issue, obviously. Like, this will make it more visible this year.
Right.
And next year it will come back just
And
as strong.
that's-
I
we
would
have to-
certainly advocate for a cutting and blotting, but that also can't be done at this point in the year.
No. And we're not proposing to be spraying, we don't want to, it's a trial and error for us. We don't know if this is going to work, so we don't want to put a lot of money into something that we're not sure. So it's just more of like, okay, can we go out there?
Yeah, I'm not
Make
trying,
it
I'm not trying to
visible.
change the plan for this
Yeah.
method, this
Yeah.
appointment, but I would definitely, if we're going to be addressing bittersweet in any method, it's, cutting it alone is,
Yeah,
No.
oh, I know. The seeds are out there, they're not
Yeah,
gonna,
sure.
they're not going anywhere.
Are you working with someone who could point out which trees are in fact dead and which are perhaps, I know this time of year,
This
it's
time of
sometimes
year, you're
hard to
not-
tell.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
But, a person who knows trees could help you with that.
If you look at some of the photos, you can see the bittersweet just wrapped up some of them. If you want more like a percentage of saying, hey, those trees that are wrapped 75% in bittersweet going up the vine, up the trunk, you can establish it that way. Or we don't have an arborist on this committee. This was brought to us last early December, or early November, we kind of came out and just walked it quickly with with 4 cops and a bunch, Triumph was out there, our consultant, and
The arborists are moving pretty slow right now. They're not very busy.
we don't have one on staff. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand.
To get out there next week and do it, so if you don't want us cutting trees, we could just say no cutting trees for now.
This is the Lincoln Street. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, it would be, for me, it would be kind of the goal of the right way for us to approach us with the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I understand that you have a, you have a timeline that, you're dealing with people, and you have a timeline, and you're dealing with the weather as well this time
Right.
of year.
We get an inch of snow, this project's done.
Actually, if it snows next week, then you're kind of out of business for a while as
Yes.
well.
Yes. So looking at the weather, we said early next week is the go for now. Like, that's when they can get out there, because we know there's no snow on the ground, we can,
Judging by these photos, I would say don't cut trees.
Okay.
I have seen them come back to life, in a year or two after cutting the bittersweet off of them.
Yeah, if you
Worse
cut
than
the
this, yeah.
vines at the base, then at least it gives the chance for the tree to,
okay. We will be cutting some, I can tell you, down the slope that's out of resource area. Some of those trees will be coming down. It's just an access, and they're on our property, they're not in resource area. So the slope going from Lowell Connector down, it's not in any resource area, so I know some of those trees will be cut down.
okay, and if this is going to be a 2-part process, perhaps, after it's cleaned up, perhaps we can schedule a site visit out there and talk about what trees there are that you would like to take down that are in the resource area.
If at that point they, my higher ups still want to do that, we can surely do it. I think it'll be if you don't, it's not, I can't say it's a guarantee that we will come back and cut trees down if they don't get done this week. It's more of this was how to propose, how to clean it up the fastest way, get in and get out, make sure that we can have the visibility. Some trees were very inundated, and I felt when I was out there that would be the best way of protecting the canopy in the future, of removing them. There wasn't a whole lot. I don't recall off the top of my head like the number of trees, but it wasn't like, we're wiping out everything. When they were like, let's just get rid of everything. I'm like, no. So we proposed like limbing trees. Okay, with the guy with the chainsaw, so you're not going up too high. Limbing trees, making sure just kind of opening up underneath. So that was more of how to deal with that. The ones with the bittersweet, it was facilitate how to clean out, because the debris is all underneath
Yeah,
there.
but we do need to get something concrete here to give to the
So
persons
if
who are
it's
going to
easier
be
to say
doing the
no
work.
tree cutting in resource areas, we'll go with that for now. If you want to put something in there saying no tree cutting until you walk the site, if we choose to go further, we can do that way and have it when the
I
site is
don't have a
clean.
problem with you cutting the vines off at the base and within a year or so, bittersweet just becomes very brittle and kind of disintegrates, the vines do. So it could be that if someone keeps after it a bit, that could keep the trees alive if they get a chance to come back a little stronger.
I have a question. So what's the long-term plan? You don't have a long-term plan?
We don't know. We don't know if this is going to work. We don't know. They came back again, they cleaned out the area right adjacent to it not that long ago. They just keep moving.
So the whole purpose is to clean up the area, get those people out of there, and deter them from coming back.
Yes.
I know you were talking about opening up the area. I know the River Greenway that they just put in, that's some sort of a way to invite the public down to the resource area where it will kind of deter people from, just as like a long term type
Is that like a
plan.
park or something that you guys have?
Similar, yeah, it's like a bike or a walk path. And that's just something to think about for the future.
Yeah.
If you want to deter anything like what is happening now
Yeah.
from happening in the future.
Okay, I'll pass that on. That's good to know.
Okay, so I think this is a necessary project, and, I just want to have a little bit of caution as to keeping the resource as intact as possible, because that is a wildlife area in there. I have seen numerous birds chirping around and muskrats and things. So it's not that nothing can be cut, but as far as saying we're going next Monday and we're going to clear it, that's a little scary to me as far as what it might look like when you're done, especially when your goal is not to enhance the resource, it's to clean up the site. So sometimes those are at odds with one another.
Yeah. I've said no grubbing. I've told them, no earth excavation, erosion controls where they can. The ground is going to be frozen out there, so that's better for like the bobcat going back and forth or the debris. But as soon as it starts getting anything that if they can, it's a work in progress out there. You can't really put erosion control down until you clean up sections. So I think they're going to be moving as they go along and fixing the areas that they can and work their way down the site.
Okay, well, where you are coming back in the spring, you think, to do the other site, it's possible that you could work a little bit on this site if it needs it at that point. But we'd be happy to go out and walk the site with whoever you think should take a look. And we could probably even do it before you start next week, if that's something that
I would like to do that.
you would like done.
You want to walk the site before we clean it up?
Been down plenty of those sites. I'm on
Yeah,
the
but
fire
we have,
department,
I
so
know, but we have to have a cop with us and everything. That's
I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah,
say, I'm gonna work
I'm just
tomorrow.
throwing that out there.
Yeah.
If you feel your work can be completed without the tree cutting,
They can do,
within the resource area, then,
they will clean the brush up. I will let you, I'm going to tell you, they need to cut the brush along, they're not going way down the bank. They can't go way down the bank on it, like the slope. The way it comes down is a slope from the road. It kind of plateaus where the path is, where most people are living, and then it slopes down to the river. They're staying on top of the slope to the river. They're not going down that embankment. That's where the small excavator's coming in and doing the
Okay.
work. So
that's even better.
but they do have to kind of get in close enough to that edge to clean out, because there is a lot of debris. That is where it's been trapped. So we kind of want to be able to clean out and make sure that there's nothing really left of the hazardous material there.
Okay. So with what you've discussed tonight, as far as, holding off on tree cutting, vine cutting, okay, not clear cutting or really disturbing the slope too much down to River Meadow Brook, I would think that this is something we could do a -3 on.
One other comment, if there's any hazardous waste gonna be left in dumpsters overnight, I don't know if you'd be able to do it all in one day or not.
So it's going to take about 2 to 3 days total for the first site to get done. The hazardous waste, like the needles, are actually going in the back of one of our Mass DOT pickup trucks, and we'll leave the site at night. The dumpster itself, the goal is to actually remove it that night. It depends on the dumpster company that we get in. Our goal is to actually remove it every night.
I would,
We're trying. It's not that.
Yeah, I know.
But the needles and
sure.
the sharp objects that will be left behind, that we're picking up, is actually coming out.
I was
at
thinking
site.
about lined or covered dumpsters at the very least.
Okay.
We're
do
not
that.
putting any needles in the dumpsters, but certainly if it does get left there, it needs to be covered.
Okay. That's
Okay,
not.
before we have a motion, is there anyone who'd like to speak on this particular topic? Come up and introduce,
Sandra Judge, I live on
could you
Robinson
sign
Street.
our listing there, please?
What am I signing?
Just saying that you were here.
Okay. Because I signed Alec, I don't know if you dealt with Alex, my neighbor on Robinson Street.
my boss has,
Yeah, he
yes.
came to the house like for me to sign something. I'm always like leery like.
And could you
No, like-
introduce yourself, please? and
Oh, sorry,
give your
Sandra
address?
Judge, resident of Robinson Street. So I'm looking out my second story window, can see everything there. But I'm not as close as that man I told you, but it's worse than ever. It's really bad. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I've lived there like over 30 years, so it was bad, noisy, and then it did, I don't know when they cleaned it out, like how long ago, but it seems
I
like,
wasn't with the district.
oh. But like there's an opening in the fence, you can get up closer, because I'm on the other side of Robinson Street, but when you go right up to the street, I'm like, it's a mess. It's a mess, you know, but luckily these people that live there go the other way to get out. Most of them don't go up my street, but it's just horrifying. That's all I wanted to say. You know, I'm
Okay,
glad
so
they're
you're
gonna-
looking forward to the cleanup.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, now, if there's no more discussion from the board, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to grant a determination of applicability.
-3 to down.
-3, we usually call it. It's what you check off on the form.
Okay.
It means it's within the resource area, but it will not adversely affect the resource, the required work.
So a motion to grant a -3.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded for a -3, keeping in mind the stipulations that we've discussed during the hearing.
And just to go over those again, it's not cutting down any trees, removing vines is okay, and not disturbing the slope
Right.
in terms of like removal and things like that. Obviously debris can be removed, but
That's what, I was trying to like clarify, make
Yeah.
sure I don't think you want the mattresses down there.
I think those 3 are good.
Good.
Okay, motion made, seconded, no discussion, further discussion, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed. So,
We'll get back in touch if,
right.
after this first round goes through and we see what happens. If,
Or after the cleanup, perhaps we can take a look at the trees.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have on our agenda now a continuing item, the enforcement order against Flaybell Limited, and the violation is at 5.1 Thorndike Street, illegal dumping of trash and landscaping debris within 100 feet of the Pawtucket Canal. Do we have any new information, Patrick?
unfortunately we don't. We have yet to make contact with the property owner. So that was why I had issued another enforcement order with the company, the Stallion Recycling Company, which, you know, they're the ones who are actively using the site, and we didn't hear back from them as well. I do know that the health department is continuously finding them, and also trying to reach out.
Have we been in touch with the health department or any other departments?
Yeah, so they've been addressing the site and they keep issuing fines. They have not made contact with the property owner either. So we are kind of trying to figure out what to do with the site, but they are just continuing to kind of keep their eyes on it. They do regular visits, and we are as well, so.
Have there been any changes to the site since?
There haven't been any changes besides the fact that they're still using it as, you know, like a storage location.
But not dumping.
Right. So, I mean, I, you know, issued the second one in hopes of making some contact with someone, and That was unsuccessful. We didn't hear back. We can ratify this one, or we may not. I'll leave that up to the commission if they have any other ideas on how to.
Okay, I believe we ratified the
You did ratify the other
former one.
Yep.
Okay, so we're sending a new enforcement order to a different person, different
Entity.
site.
Yeah.
Who
It's the
is
same site.
using the site, same site, but a different address.
Owner lived in Florida.
The trash company.
Yeah. So it's the company who was using the same site,
Stalin or
Stallion Company.
Stallion.
Yeah.
So that would seem like a good idea to ratify that one. Would you like to make a motion?
Motion to
Good.
ratify.
Motion to ratify the enforcement order.
Motion to ratify the enforcement order.
Second.
Seconded by Brad. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Patrick and I know other people have been out to the site as well. This is 850, this is under other business discussion. 850 Lawrence Street. We went on a tree walk. And I have a little scrap of paper here that I think is the latest on which trees are going to be kept.
Right.
And Patrick probably has this written down as well, but it looks to me like numbers 1, 13, 38, 39, 53, we decided should be kept, and 96, 97, and 101 are sort of optional because the Greenway might need to take that particular clump down in order to put the bridge across the Concord River.
Right.
So we did see that some of the trees that they had on their list to cut were in fact in bad shape and looked like they could be a danger at some point in the near future. So, but there were a couple of nice trees out there, and a particular place on the bank where it's quite steep, where we thought keeping the trees would hold the bank together better than cutting them, even if we kept the stumps. So, is that what you took out of that, Patrick?
Yep. And then I did follow up on those, the high numbers that you mentioned, the 96, 97, 101, I think. That's the clump that's kind of like in that area with the Concord River Greenway. I'll be doing another site visit with the designers of the Greenway, because when I asked them about the feasibility of those trees, they kind of were unsure with the bridge that's going to cross the Merrimack River. So we're going to go back out there and just kind of reassess those ones and kind of determine whether those will stay or go. I do know in that area they probably will be doing additional planting.
And there is a beautiful tree across the Concord River, right where the bridge is going. If you could lobby for saving that one, I'd appreciate it. I didn't look particularly to see what kind of a tree it was, but it's large and nicely shaped and right on the river bank. So that would be a great one to save.
I'll do my best.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Patrick, that we need to discuss?
No, that's it.
Okay. No minutes, and we're ready for a motion.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Brad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Good night. Thank you.
All righty.